I'm Lesley Weidenbener with Comcast Newsmakers, and I'm here with Representative Ed DeLaney, a Democrat from Indianapolis. Welcome to the show.
Good to see you.
Tell us about the mass transit bill. I know it's one of your top priorities.
Well, the mass transit bill is moving. It would help all of central Indiana and give us an option to have enhanced public transit. It's only an option, and the local officials would have to adopt it, and the citizens would then have to support it. I think it will be supported. I like the framework. I think the bill has the right approach, and I'm hopeful that we'll get the Senate to move. Critical thing is, will some of the Republicans from central Indiana get on board? That's the big issue.
What are you hearing from your constituents about this particular bill and about possibly paying a little more to have a better mass transit system?
Well, you know, people don't want to pay more, but my constituents are generally very much in favor of this. I've been monitoring this issue for 5 years now. Before, during, and now as we're easing out of the economic crisis, people see the value in having an alternative transit, maybe not having to have a second or third car. And I think my people are for it. Sure, some are against it, but that's natural. But I think on balance, our people are for it and see the potential long-term advantage. The younger you are, the more you see the advantage, and we have to address their concerns.
One of the biggest decisions the legislature is facing this year is whether to expand the Medicaid program as called for by the Affordable Care Act. Where do you come down on that?
Well, I told the governor the other day that I thought this was the biggest decision we'll have in decades. The issue is, do we ensure at federal expense with dollars we've already sent to Washington, do we insure 400,000 Hoosiers, or do we express some anger or disagreement? I think the question is very clear. We're talking thousands of jobs at our hospitals and doctors' offices. We're talking about better health for 400,000 people, and the cost to the state is very minimal. It also gives us a chance to begin to work on the healthcare system and work costs out. Not on day one, but over time I think we will work costs out if we get everybody insured, so I'm for this.
Republican leaders and Governor Pence both only want to proceed with the Medicaid expansion if the federal government does some waivers, lets the state create the program the way they want to. What do you think of that approach?
Well, Washington has shown a willingness with other states to make some concessions to modify the program to suit the needs of a particular state. I'm all for that. But what I don't want to do is say they have to meet a set of rigid requirements, and then if they don't say, yes, we can the program. We have to have this program. I'm all for negotiating for some concessions, but let's get the program for sure.
Governor Pence has also proposed a 10% income tax cut. How do you feel about that?
The amounts are not that great. Our income tax, happily, is relatively low, so the cutting at 10% is not going to be a lot of money in people's pockets. We have too much cost for tuition right now. We're underfunding public education. We're not taking care of our roads, which are fundamental. So I think we need to do those things first.
What are your priorities for the budget?
Well, those would be my one or two priorities. A serious approach, a long-term approach to transit, but more broadly highways. And then secondly, the minimal amount of money we'd have to put in to expand the health care. I think those are important. And then education.
And what about pre-K?
I'm all for that. I think that the experiment is a good idea. I don't like the way we're going to do the experiment, but let's get started. Let's see how this works to subsidize pre-K education for the kids who don't have a lot of money in their families. Great idea. Can only help in the long run. So I'm all for that, and let's get moving on it.
And do you think something like that could pass yet this year?
I think that'll pass. I think the form will be less than perfect, but I think we'll have pre-K education, at least on an experimental basis, starting next year.
Thank you so much, Representative DeLaney. Great
Thanks
to
for
have you.
having me. Good to see you.
I'm Lesley Weidenbener with Comcast Newsmakers.